Some people live mostly in their heads. Others live mostly in their hearts. But there is a rare group who live in both at once, and it is both a gift and a curse. These are the thinkers who feel too much. Carl Jung believed that the human psyche is always seeking balance between thought and emotion, between logic and instinct. But for some, the balance never comes. Their mind never stops analyzing, and their heart never stops aching. Every thought is charged with feeling, and every feeling grows heavy with thought. The double burden. To think deeply is already a heavy burden. It means you notice what others miss. You ask questions that others avoid. You see patterns that others cannot. But to feel deeply on top of that is almost unbearable, because every thought you have is alive with emotion. You don't just see a problem. You feel the weight of it. You don't just think about people. You carry their emotions as if they were your own. You don't just reflect on life. You ache for its meaning. This double burden makes life richer, but also more painful. The gift of awareness. Thinkers who feel too much are often misunderstood. People say they are too sensitive, too intense, too serious. But what they really are is awake. They see the layers of reality that others ignore. When they love, they don't love lightly. They love completely. When they lose, they don't just lose. They grieve with their whole being. When they create, they pour both their logic and their soul into it. This is why many artists, writers, philosophers, and visionaries belong to this type. Their work carries both precision and passion, both clarity and fire. Without them, the world would lack its deepest voices. The curse of overload. But the same gift that makes them brilliant also makes them fragile. Their mind never rests. Their heart never heals fully. They carry too much of life all at once. A small disappointment feels like a wound. A passing thought spirals into endless overthinking. A single glance can leave them haunted. Their empathy becomes exhaustion, and their intelligence becomes anxiety. Jung described this as being overtaken by the unconscious. The emotions rise too powerfully, the thoughts run too endlessly, and the person loses control. What was once awareness becomes torment. Why they struggle in relationships. Thinkers who feel too much often struggle in love, not because they don't care, but because they care too much. They analyze every word their partner says. They feel every shift in tone, every silence, every unspoken tension. Their love runs so deep that it becomes overwhelming. They expect depth in return, but most people cannot match it. And so they often feel misunderstood, abandoned, or unloved, not because they weren't given affection, but because their soul demands more than most people know how to give. Jung said that what we long for the most is often what we deny ourselves. Thinkers who feel too much long for peace, but they rarely allow themselves to rest. They long for simple love, but they complicate it with thought and feeling. The shadow. They carry. Every gift carries a shadow. For these people, the shadow is despair. Because when you think deeply and feel deeply, you see both the beauty and the tragedy of life in sharp detail. You see how fragile people are, how fleeting love is, how broken the world can be. And sometimes that vision is too much to bear. Some collapse under it. Others numb themselves. Others drown in endless searching for meaning. But the truth is, the same shadow that threatens to destroy them is also the source of their greatest strength. Jung's answer. Carl Jung believed the path forward is not to silence thought or numb emotion, but to integrate them, to stop seeing them as enemies, and instead unite them as allies. For the thinker who feels too much, freedom begins when they stop fighting themselves, when they learn to let the mind analyze without drowning, and let the heart feel without collapsing. When they find balance, their depth becomes wisdom instead of torment. Because the world does not need fewer thinkers who feel too much. It needs more of them who have learned how to carry their burden without breaking. Carl Jung often said, "No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." For thinkers who feel too much, this hell is not a place outside them. It is the constant storm inside. Yet the very storm that threatens to drown them can become the force that carries them higher. The tension of opposites. Jung believed that all growth happens in the tension between opposites. For the thinker who feels too much, the opposites are thought and emotion. One part of them demands clarity, logic, analysis. The other part demands empathy, depth, sensitivity. Most people resolve this tension by choosing one side. They become purely logical, shutting down their feelings. Or they become purely emotional, abandoning reason. But thinkers who feel too much cannot choose. They are forced to carry both. And in this tension lies their greatest possibility. Because if they learn to balance the two, they can reach a depth of wisdom that others never touch. The gift of depth. When they find balance, their mind doesn't just analyze, it understands. Their heart doesn't just feel, it sees. They can interpret the world not only with precision, but with compassion. They can hold both the truth of logic and the truth of feeling without collapsing into either. This makes them extraordinary friends, partners, leaders, creators. They don't give shallow advice. They give insight that feels like it touches your soul. They don't just solve problems, they heal them. They don't just write or create, they pour life into everything they touch. The world often misunderstands them, but when they find their place, the world cannot do without them. The curse of sensitivity. But balance does not come easily. Their sensitivity is both blessing and curse. They are quick to see beauty, but just as quick to notice pain. They are deeply moved by kindness, but equally wounded by cruelty. They are inspired by love, but devastated by rejection. Jung warned that the unconscious is most dangerous when it overwhelms us. For thinkers who feel too much, their unconscious can flood them with emotion that their mind cannot process, or bury them in thought that their heart cannot escape. This is why so many of them live with anxiety, depression, or exhaustion. They burn out not because they are weak, but because they are carrying twice the weight of others. The shadow of overthinking. One of their greatest struggles is overthinking. Because their mind is always active, they analyze every word, every silence, every possibility. But when combined with deep emotion, overthinking becomes torment. They don't just wonder if someone is upset. They feel the upset. They don't just imagine the worst outcome. They suffer it in advance. Their imagination becomes their prison, and their empathy becomes their chains. The shadow of overthinking convinces them they are cursed, when in reality, they are simply unbalanced. The way through. Jung's path forward was individuation, the process of integrating every part of yourself into a greater whole. For thinkers who feel too much, individuation means embracing both their logic and their sensitivity, without rejecting either. Instead of suppressing thought, they must guide it. Instead of drowning in emotion, they must channel it. Instead of fearing their intensity, they must learn to carry it with strength. Meditation, journaling, creative work, even therapy. These are not luxuries for them, but necessities, because their inner world is too heavy to ignore. If they do not give it an outlet, it will consume them. Relationships and connection. In relationships, they must also learn balance. Their depth can overwhelm partners who cannot match it. They demand honesty, intimacy, presence, qualities that most people struggle to give. But when they meet someone who values their depth, they create bonds that are unbreakable. They don't just love casually. They love with every thought and every feeling. To be loved by a thinker who feels too much is to be seen completely in ways most people never experience. Yet they must guard against expecting perfection. No one can match their intensity all the time. If they learn to give space, to accept imperfection, to rest in simplicity, they will finally find peace in love. The transformation. When thinkers who feel too much embrace their dual nature, they transform. Their overthinking becomes insight. Their sensitivity becomes empathy. Their pain becomes wisdom. Their intensity becomes creativity. The very traits that once broke them now set them apart. They become the ones others turn to for guidance, for comfort, for inspiration. They are no longer trapped by their depth. They are empowered by it. This is why so many of history's greatest minds were tortured souls. Their suffering was real, but so was their brilliance. They turned their inner storm into art, philosophy, leadership, transformation. Carl Jung believed that the goal of life is not happiness, but wholeness. For thinkers who feel too much, happiness often seems impossible. Their thoughts are restless, their emotions are overwhelming, and peace feels out of reach. But wholeness, learning to unite their mind and heart, can give them something far greater than fleeting happiness. It can give them meaning. Why peace feels impossible. Thinkers who feel too much rarely know what it means to rest. Even in moments of quiet, their mind races. Even in moments of joy, their heart aches. They live with a constant sense that something is unfinished, unanswered, unresolved. This is because their depth doesn't switch off. They can be sitting in a cafe, laughing with friends, yet still notice the sadness in someone's eyes across the room. They can be loved, yet still wonder whether that love will last. They can be successful, yet still question the point of it all. Jung said that the unconscious never sleeps. For these people, that truth feels painfully real. Their unconscious constantly speaks, flooding them with thoughts and emotions. Peace seems like a dream they can never touch. The path of integration. But Jung's teaching was clear. Peace does not come from silencing parts of yourself. It comes from integrating them. For thinkers who feel too much, this means they must stop fighting their nature. They are not too sensitive or too analytical. They are both. And both are essential. The more they try to suppress one side, the more it erupts uncontrollably. The only way forward is to accept both. When they think, they must allow themselves to feel. When they feel, they must allow themselves to think. When they suffer, they must remind themselves it is also the soil of their growth. Integration turns conflict into cooperation. Instead of mind and heart tearing them apart, both can begin to work together. The healing power of solitude. Jung himself spent years in solitude, wrestling with his own thoughts and visions. He called it a descent into the unconscious, a journey he documented in the Red Book. For thinkers who feel too much, solitude is not isolation, but healing. It gives them space to process the storm inside without drowning in the noise of the world. In solitude, they discover they can survive their own intensity. But solitude must be chosen wisely. It should not be an escape into despair, but a return to self. It should be filled with creation, reflection, and rest. For in these moments, they learn to carry their depth with strength. The role of creativity. Creativity is essential for those who feel too much. Art, writing, music, design. These are not hobbies, but lifelines. They give form to the chaos within. They transform emotion into beauty, thought into clarity, pain into expression. Jung called this the process of active imagination. a dialogue with the unconscious through creation. For thinkers who feel too much, creativity is where they finally find balance. Their mind gets to build, their heart gets to pour out, and their soul finds release. Without creativity, their depth festers. With it, their depth transforms. Love and understanding. Relationships remain the greatest challenge and the greatest gift for these people. Because they love deeply, they are easily wounded. Because they feel so much, they are often misunderstood. But when they find someone who values their depth, something extraordinary happens. They create a love that is not shallow, not convenient, not disposable. It is a love that grows roots into the soul. Jung warned that love always carries risk. To love is to open yourself to pain. But for thinkers who feel too much, love is also the path to wholeness. Because in love, their thoughts and emotions finally have a home outside themselves. They are no longer carrying everything alone. The shadow transformed. Every thinker who feels too much carries a shadow. Despair, overthinking, exhaustion, loneliness. But shadows are not meant to be destroyed. They are meant to be integrated. When they stop running from their shadow, they discover its gift. Their despair gives them empathy. Their overthinking gives them foresight. Their exhaustion teaches them rest. Their loneliness teaches them presence. This is the transformation Jung spoke of. The shadow does not disappear, but it changes shape. What was once torment becomes guidance. What was once suffering becomes strength. Why the world needs them. The modern world often rewards speed, convenience, and surface-level thinking. But thinkers who feel too much remind us of what it means to be human. They remind us that life is not just about success, but about meaning. Not just about pleasure, but about depth. Not just about surviving, but about truly experiencing. Their presence is uncomfortable because it forces others to confront what they avoid. But their presence is also healing because it offers wisdom that cannot be faked. The world does not need fewer thinkers who feel too much. It needs more of them who have learned how to carry their gift without breaking. Carl Jung's message to such people would be this: do not curse your depth. Do not wish to be ordinary. Your suffering is the proof of your gift. But you must learn to hold it wisely. If you carry it with despair, it will destroy you. If you carry it with strength, it will illuminate the world. If you are a thinker who feels too much, this is your reminder. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are simply awake in a world that prefers sleep. But now I want to ask you, do you see your depth as a burden or as your greatest gift? Comment below with your answer. And if this video touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and consider a super thanks to support the channel. Your depth deserves to be shared with the world.